Hello, welcome to the show. Easy Does It. It's a great show where we, meaning me, I talk about things relating to Chicago sports in general. People are trickling in. Shalom. Welcome to the show. I think this is probably a good time to bring up one of our unofficial sponsors. One of our unofficial sponsors is Honey's Cough Drops. Now, I might need to rule them out as an official sponsor because of what I'm about to say about them. But they are terrible, man. They are the reason why they're the sponsor for the show is because I want you all to try them because I've never had an item that goes from bad to delicious to horrible in such a short period of time. So, Honey's Cough Drops, I highly recommend. They've made my throat feel a lot better. I was sick this week. I had a very, very sore throat, and now I only have a mildly sore throat. And I think I could give a lot of the credit for that kind of thing to Honey's Cough Drops. So shout out to Honey's for that. That's a great unofficial sponsor right there. Is Honey's. Also, mini M&Ms because they will hold your quarters for you. So if you ever need to do your laundry with quarters, highly recommend getting mini M&Ms. Anyway, that's enough from the sponsors, the unofficial sponsors. Got some viewers trickling in, which is nice. Hi, Mom. Thank you. Let's talk a little football. We got a big game coming up on Sunday. The Bears, needless to say, are not in it. It's been a while since that's happened. But I want to kind of break this game down because I'm still trying to figure out who I think is going to win. I also want to give you the insight on, who to bet on, who not to bet on. Not that gambling is a good thing because gambling is bad and wrong, and you are all degenerates for doing it. However, gambling is cool sometimes, especially on Super Bowl Sunday. And with that in mind, I think that the number one thing that you should bet on is Travis Kelce getting a touchdown, probably two. I mean, he's been good for it all season. Let's check his stats for the year. I think he's averaged like a touchdown per game, at least. Okay, not quite a touchdown per game. He has 12 total touchdowns during the regular season, 110 catches. Jesus Christ, for a tight end in this NFL, that's pretty crazy. That is a lot. So the main thing I would say is if you are going to bet on the Chiefs, what I would do is I would say Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown scorer, and the Chiefs to win. If you want to boost your, lower your odds, but, boost your chance at getting more money. So if you are going to bet on this game, definitely throw in, and you want to bet on the Chiefs, I would throw in a Kelce touchdown. Now, if you want to bet on the Eagles, I'd probably throw in a Jalen Hurts touchdown. I think that he is going to run the ball into the end zone at some point. I think he's more likely to score a rushing touchdown than Travis Kelce is. Now, I want to talk about some of the sillier props, the ones that are a little bit more not grounded in football and more grounded in the tomfoolery surrounding Super Bowl Sunday. First of which being, what color is the Gatorade going to be for the Gatorade bath? For years, like it's kind of fluctuate. I think we are overdue for red. I think that right now we are overdue for some red Gatorade. I think in recent years we've had some blue, we've had some yellow, we've had some orange. Yellow, I never understood the appeal of yellow. To me, that's just piss. Never really understood red because that's blood, kinda, not really. I think blue is always the way to go. Blue Gatorade. Also, I think the Super Bowl, there's a certain lack of blue in this game. We got the Eagles who are going to be wearing their midnight greens and the Chiefs who are going to be wearing their white and reds. So there's just not a lot of blue. I think that there's going to be blue Gatorade. I think that's going to be the color that is dumped on either coach. You could quote me on that, but I suggest you don't because I don't really know. Now the winner of the coin toss has lost the last 8 Super Bowls. I don't expect that trend to continue, but it could go either way. That's the beauty of a coin toss. I'd say, I mean, look, it could go either way. I've always called heads. I've always been, more of a heads guy than a tails guy. Pause, maybe. I don't know. Weird phrasing. But yeah, I do think that's a weird trend that whoever wins the toss loses the game. I mean, does that go to show that receiving first isn't the right option? Maybe you want to defer until the second half. It's up for debate, but I don't think it really like I think that's just an odd coincidence. But speaking of the decision to defer or receive to start the game, I'm kind of in this position where right now I believe this game will come down to coaching. And these two coaches, obviously, they have their similarities. That's Andy Reid for the Chiefs and Nick Sirianni for the Eagles, right? Um, they are very different in style. Andy Reid's been at it for a very long time. The game has not passed him by at all. Obviously, very, very experienced. Nick Sirianni, a little bit newer. Obviously, he's only been coaching the Eagles since 2021, last season. Kind of amazing that he's gotten them to this point. When it comes to the coaching edge in this game, you got to give it to Andy Reid. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. However, something that I do have to credit Nick Sirianni for is the way that he has adjusted to what the Eagles' personnel is. What do I mean by that? Is early on in 2021, if you remember, the Eagles were throwing the ball a lot, more than they should have, most likely. Just they were asking a lot out of young Jalen Hurts very early on. And then as the season progressed, Nick Sirianni, I think he probably looked in the mirror and was like, what the hell am I doing? This is kind of ridiculous. Maybe he went, the Aaron Rodgers route and did some ayahuasca to come to this conclusion. But the conclusion was we got to run the ball more. And since then, the Eagles have been, one of the best running teams in the league. And when they do throw the ball, they do a lot of screens, they do a lot of misdirections. I think that while Andy Reid is the better coach and definitely the greater coach, the more accomplished coach, I do think there's something to be said about Sirianni for understanding his players and understanding the strengths and weaknesses of his personnel. He's a bit of a corny guy, like he's showing Rocky to his team to get him hyped up for the game and whatnot. He's still grounded when it comes to the X's and O's. I do think that once a game, and this is something similar to the former Eagles head coach who won them their first Super Bowl, Doug Peterson, I do think he has this tendency to get a little too cute, to try to throw in a little Matt Nagy wrinkle every now and then. That's just kind of something that doesn't really escape him. I guess that's a function of the Andy Reid coaching tree. Oh, we got a troll here. We got a troll on the show. Mallory Weinstein, my stepsister. Are you whooped? She asks. Yes, I'm very whooped, Mal. Thank you. Moving on. I lost my train of thought. No, I didn't. So yeah, I think in the context of knowing your personnel, knowing what you're working with, I think there's really very few better in the game right now than Sirianni, and that's why I don't give the coaching edge to the Chiefs as much as some others might. That being said, Andy Reid still does know his personnel very well, but at the same time, he happens to have the greatest, or not the greatest, but the best quarterback in the history of the solar system. Now, let me clarify that for a little bit. The difference between greatest and best. Great means the most great, and best means the most good. All right? So, to be the greatest, it means greatness refers to accomplishments. It refers to sustained success. It refers to how long you can be good for. Whereas good is more in the moment. Best is the best right now. It's more talking about, like over a short period of time, how adept you are at whatever the skill may be. So when I say things sometimes like, I think Tom Brady or really, I think Joe Montana is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Tim Brady might be the GOAT number 2, might be the second GOAT, or he might be the GOAT himself. I think it's fair to say Brady and Montana are 1A, 1B. I think they're just very different in style. But the point is, Aaron Rodgers is the BOAT. He is, in terms of talent, the best of all time. That's something I would have told you 2 or 3 years ago. But now I think the BOAT, the best of all time, in terms of skills and in terms of like right now, how good this person is Patrick Mahomes. I don't think there's ever been a quarterback who is as good at playing football as he is. And that's not to say Brady wasn't awesome at playing football. Wow, it's weird using past tense words for Brady. Huh. But that's not to say Brady wasn't good. Obviously Brady was the best. He was the greatest, right? But in terms of pure football skill, it's very hard to top what Mahomes has done. And I mean, I could talk about it all day, but really what you should do is after you watch my show, which you all should do, keep watching. I've had some viewers this whole time, which is nice. What I suggest doing is just watching a Patrick Mahomes reel, because watching him play football is very, very, very exciting, and I would give 4 of my toes to be able to be a fan of whatever team Patrick Mahomes is on. God damn Ryan Pace. He made up for it by drafting Justin Fields, though, we'll say. But, still could have been us. Could have been us, baby. But, is what it is. Is what it is. Life goes on. But yes, back to the coaching matchup. We got a really fun one. Sirianni, who I believe comes from the Andy Reid coaching tree. Let me look that up real quick just to make sure I'm right. Let's see. Nicholas John Sirianni is an American football coach who is the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles of the National Football League. This is the Wikipedia article. So he looks like he was with the Chiefs for a very long time, went over to the Chargers in 2013. He worked with Frank Reich, and Frank Reich worked with Andy Reid. Okay, so still like a Andy Reid coaching tree cousin. So he was not retained under Andy Reid, meaning Andy Reid essentially fired him when he became the head coach of the Chiefs. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's a storyline that has gone a little under the radar. So I guess he's not technically in that tree. He was retained under Romeo Crennel, who I believe came from the Parcells Belichick school of thinking. Interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, point being, I give the Chiefs the edge in terms of coaching, although I think the margin between and the greatness and the goodness thing that kind of applies to these two coaches, because Andy Reid is the greatest coach, one of the greatest coaches of all time, but Nick Sirianni might be a better coach right now. I don't think he is. I think it's about even, but in general, like at this very moment, I think that they're both very capable. All right, moving on from that. I don't think the game is going to necessarily come down to coaching, though. And the reason I say that is because, I mean, it's a Super Bowl. It's decided on the field with the players. And I think that the Eagles have a better personnel. Like in general, they're incredibly deep on defense. They have 2 really, really good defensive backs in James Bradbury and Darius Slay. Solid linebackers, a really, really good defensive line. Like I think they had 4 players get over or 11 or more sacks this season, which is just insane. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they got, they're absolutely loaded at the running back position. Boston Scott, well, I should go in order. Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, and Boston Scott, really strong, three-headed monster, big fluffy in the backfield there. Harry Potter reference. I'm sorry. And then two elite receivers in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Now, people refer to A.J. Brown as the number one receiver on that team. Devontae Smith led the team in catches this season, though. So, really, you can't ask for a better receiving tandem. Then you got Dallas Goedert, one of the better tight ends in the game. Jason Kelce at center, who, by the way, I think, I'll get to Jason Kelce in a minute, anchored by Lane Johnson, one of the best offensive tackles ever. He's going to be a surefire Hall of Famer. And it all runs through quarterback Jalen Hurts. Alabama and Oklahoma's very own Jalen Hurts. Really, really good quarterback. Really, really good player. I'll get there, Barb. That's a surprise. But yeah, so that Eagles offense Eagles are just stacked talent-wise, both sides of the ball. However, the Chiefs have one guy who's really, really, really freaking good. I mean, they have a few guys who are really, really good, but obviously they got Mahomes. So on the one hand, it's like, do I want to bet on this complete team that runs the ball better than anyone has in years and is cohesive on both sides of the ball and can get after the quarterback like nobody else? Or do I bet on the best quarterback I've ever seen? That is why I'm a little conflicted this game. Not going to lie, I'm a little conflicted in this game. Let me check the rushing yards real quick. So, yeah, obviously the Bears were the number one rushing team in the NFL. 18 rushing touchdowns. A lot of those numbers are inflated because of the fact that we have this really, really good quarterback named Justin Fields. Not sure if you've heard of him. He was quite good. However, the Eagles scored more touchdowns than anyone by a wide margin. They scored 32 touchdowns, which was 8 more than the Cowboys' 24. So they really know how to get the ball in the end zone on the ground. No one's better than them at that. To answer your question, Barbara, who do I think is going to win the game? I'll go ahead and make my prediction now. And that is, I think it's going to be a great game. It'll come down to the wire. I think it will be a seesaw battle back and forth. I think there'll be really good defense too, because the Chiefs have a very underrated defense. A couple really good corners over there too. Really fast corners who could keep up with the likes of Smith and Brown. I think it will kind of be a seesaw battle. A couple of field goals sprinkled in here and there by Harrison Butker of the Chiefs, and I believe his name is Jake Elliott of the Eagles. Noah, correct me if I'm wrong. Whew. I'm going to take the Eagles to win. And I told myself I would never bet against Patrick Mahomes after what he did against the Bengals. But then I realized, this team is too good. This NFC team, which is by far the best team in the NFC this year, absolutely deserves to be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. I think the Niners are pretty good too when they're healthy, but that's not the point. Point is, the Eagles are really freaking good, and I think that they are just too complete of a team to lose this game. Not to mention, Mahomes is ailing a bit. That ankle is still a little cumbersome. I think Travis Kelce will have a big game. And I think that the key is running back for Kansas City, Isaiah Pacheco. Andy Reid, excuse me. Andy Reid needs to feature him if the Chiefs want to win this game. He needs to get the ball a lot. I think that they need to kind of stray away from their pass-first offensive mentality and focus on pounding the damn rock, running the ball a little bit, keeping the Eagles off balance, because like this hero ball that Mahomes was playing, it came up short in Super Bowl 55 against Tampa Bay. And I predicted that one correct, by the way. That was, one thing I will say is about Mahomes, I'm generally right about him. I've been right about him most of the time until last week or 2 weeks ago. I was wrong. But yeah, the Bucs, when they beat the Chiefs in that Super Bowl, their game plan was, like, you're not going to beat us over the top. You're not going to beat us with Tyreek Hill. Obviously, Tyreek Hill's not on the team anymore, but you're going to have to be methodical. We're going to keep you in the pocket, and you're not going to be able to do your ridiculous shit. Now, Mahomes still did a bunch of ridiculous stuff throughout the game. He was scrambling all over the place, making crazy throws, but the receivers weren't catching them. I think that we might see kind of a similar approach from the Philadelphia defense. I think that the Chiefs will be able to move the ball a little better. I do think Andy Reid will adapt, and they will have a game plan that attacks the weaknesses of the Philly defense, which is the ground. On the ground, the Philly defense is not great. You can run on them very well, and I do think Andy Reid knows that, and he will exploit that a little bit. However, clock management becomes a problem for Andy Reid sometimes, and I don't think that this will be enough for Kansas City. And that's why I'm taking the Eagles to win their second Super Bowl in 5, 6 years. And the final score will be 32-26, Scorigami Bowl. It's going to be a lot of fun. And hey, I can even see it going to overtime. I'm not going to call overtime because overtime is a little different than it's been in years past. But I'm going to say the Eagles find a way to get this done 32-26. It'll be a great game. And that's really what I'm hoping for, man. I'm just hoping for a classic game that is very enjoyable throughout. I think last year's Super Bowl was a very good game between the Bengals and the Rams until the last 2 minutes when they called the bullshit, excuse my language, sorry, Mom, penalty on Logan Wilson, the linebacker of the Bengals, a Wyoming player, University of Wyoming. Shout out Grandpa Harvey. Yeah, they weren't calling penalties throughout much of the game until like a 3rd and goal at the end when Logan Wilson was apparently holding. I still think it was kind of a ticky-tacky call. And it's just like, if you're going to call those, at least be consistent with them. And it just felt a little forced to me. It felt like the refs were, trying to have their say on the game. And I just hope we don't get very much of that in this game. I hope we have a competitive battle throughout. And, I hope we have a lot of fun. Let's see. If the Chiefs win, you send me a pizza. And if the Eagles win, I get 2 pizzas. That's a tough bet right there. That's a tough bet. I'm gonna have to think about that one. Hi, Dad. All right. Let's move over to a segment. Let me find it real quick while I stall. There we go.
Calling them out.
It's a new segment I came up with called Calling Them Out. This is where I'm going to be calling out talking heads in the media. And one of the main talking heads I want to call out is Colin Cowherd, because I actually like him. I listen to his show. I think he's got some really good points about a lot of things. That being said, he is oh, I didn't see the Venmo part. Yeah, that works for me. Sure. We'll do that. Deal. You have yourself a deal. All right. Anyway, so where I'm going to be calling out the media, the sports media, for a lot of their egregious takes, a lot of their ridiculous takes. And again, this is because this is out of a place of appreciation for Colin Cowherd. I actually kind of like what he does. I think he's a good interviewer. I like his show. I like the structure of his show. I miss Joy Taylor, but I do like his show a lot. Like I listen to it often. With that being said, he says some of the dumbest things out of anyone in the sports media world, and that includes Skip Bayless, and that includes Stephen A. And one of the things that he said over the years, over the recent years, is that Philadelphia isn't serious. Like Philadelphia football, the Eagles are not serious about winning because when they won the Super Bowl back in the 2017 season, during their parades, they were wearing dog masks. and they were like, making jokes and just wearing a dog mask. Like I feel stupid even saying it. Like even saying this take feels dumb to me because it's like what does that have to do with how a team performs on the field? And he would always get on to Lane Johnson and be like, "Oh, look, I got the dog mask. I'm wearing a dog mask. Oh, and we won the Super Bowl and I'm wearing a dog mask. Oh, look at me." And then he was like, "Well, yeah, well, where are the Eagles now, huh? Where are the Eagles now?" Well, do you want to know where the Eagles were? 2017, they won the Super Bowl. Then 2018, they were an Alshon Jeffrey, former Bear, shout out, former Bear, drop away from making it to the NFC Championship game. 2019, they made the playoffs again. Their quarterback got injured. They were relying on an injured Josh McCown to carry them to the through the playoffs. And he was just very old at that point. He wasn't the greatest quarterback of all time anymore, like he was in 2013. He was old veteran Josh McCown. Then 2020 was the COVID year, and the Eagles had a pretty bad year. I'll give him that. Ooh, maybe it was because they put dog masks on that one time in 2018. And then 2021, they made the playoffs. 2020, and they lost to the Bucks. Kind of a weird scripted game, but it is what it is. And then this year, they're back in the Super Bowl. So, really, that's one losing season since their last Super Bowl win. Do you really think the fucking dog masks ruined that franchise, Colin? Is that worth it? Like, was it worth it talking about how egregious and how insubordinate to your arbitrary standards it was for this team to put on a dog mask? Like, for this team to just, like, have some kind of joke about being the underdog? Come on, man. Like, the way he would beat this dead horse into the ground was like, it just wasn't grounded in anything. It was, and he brought it up so often. He just like throw out strays like nobody's business on his show for several years about these friggin' dog masks, as if they actually meant anything. So that's my rant against Colin today. Is clearly the dog masks did not have an impact on the winning culture of Philadelphia football. All right. And they might lose the Super Bowl on Sunday, sure. But are we gonna blame the dog masks for that, Colin? Is that why? No, they might lose because Patrick Mahomes is probably the third greatest quarterback of all time at this point. Montana, Brady, Mahomes. Anyway, that's my rant against Colin for today. I'm going to cut the show short because I don't have a guest today. I'm going to end on a positive note. Well, first I want to talk a little basketball real quick. Kevin Durant traded to the Suns a little bit after Kyrie Irving was traded to the Mavs. And I'm just thinking, like, oh my God, imagine being a Nets fan. That would suck. You got two great players, two annoying players, but great players in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. And then in a span of a week, they're both gone. They just because they want to leave. Like, there's no other reason besides that. They were like, I'm bored of playing in Brooklyn. The Mets, the Nets, and the Jets will always suck. Oh man, we got viewers trickling in now, so that's kind of cool. That's the wrong ticker. Here's the right ticker. Oh yeah, so make sure you tune in on Sunday for the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl is this Sunday, believe it or not. But yeah, again, and I said this before, I don't pretend to be some NBA wizard. I don't pretend to be this expert on basketball in general. But I mean, I think the Suns are going to be pretty good. I think the Suns are looking pretty good, not just on paper, but that's a really good team right there. and the fact that they didn't really need to give up many assets, is like Chris Paul sticking around, Ayton is sticking around, and Booker is sticking around. Put him with Kevin Durant. Once again, Durant is ring chasing, going to a team that was 2 games away from beating the Bucks. However, the difference between the Suns and the Warriors back when KD joined the Warriors is that the Suns obviously have not won a championship yet, whereas the Warriors had already won one. Also, KD is not joining to beat LeBron necessarily this time. He's joining to beat Giannis or the Celtics. Or, the Warriors, whoever else is a threat in the West. The Grizzlies. As a Grizzlies fan, part-time Grizzlies fan, a little disappointed. Luna's lying down. Good question. Maybe she'll make an appearance on the show. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the West. But right now, if you're a betting person, yeah, I would absolutely take that Celtics versus Suns future right now because that's pretty enticing. Pretty enticing. All right, well, my throat hurts, and I've talked an awful lot. So if there's anything you disagree with, just tell me I'm full of crap.
I think I'm full of crap. I have to be just like some idiot who's full of crap. Please show up in the comments and tell me